So, like Christy said, today I'm going to be talking to you about two things. So the first is going to be about who I am and my journey to deafblind WA, and deaf blindness in general. And the second part is going to be a bit of information about the conference in Canada back in July. Bear with me because I was so absorbed in the conference. I took notes, but yeah, I've got some photos as well. Okay, so, and I've got notes on my phone, so that's why I'm looking at it. So, before,
Sorry, 1 minute.
Some people can't hear you.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, can you project your voice a little
Okay.
bit more? Thank you so much.
I always get told I talk too loud because I can't hear myself.
Sorry, this man is deaf too. And
You don't
blind.
have a microphone.
He's deaf and blind.
No.
So.
Okay, so I'm going to talk
Thank you
pretty
so
loudly.
much.
Hope that's okay. So my deaf blindness is acquired. So there's a before section here. So next slide. So I thought I would start with a bit about me. So I was born in Geraldton and I grew up in Perth. I'm a teacher, I still am. I teach students with disabilities. I've done that for 13 years. So currently I teach at Leeming Ed Support Centre. I love camping, board games, watching movies, eating popcorn. I love reading. I'm a member of lots and lots of libraries, and I go to the library every week. It's a really happy, safe place for me. And I really enjoy cooking, so I became vegetarian 5 years ago and had to learn all these new recipes, so I like exploring that. That's a bit about me. These are some photos to help, I guess, give an idea of what life was like before I became deafblind. So on the left here is a photo in a big field, and that's my husband and our dog, and we have a property down in Bridgetown. And we go down there and do lots of camping. The middle photo is my brother, me, and my sister. That's just a photo of the three of us enjoying, I think we were at a wedding there. The top photo on the right is myself with short hair, and my sister when she graduated. So she's also a teacher of students with disabilities in Perth. The middle photo is my husband and myself, and we're at the footy. So he's a big Hawthorn fan, and I'm a big Freo Dockers fan.
Oh dear.
It's painful. And then the bottom photo is a friend and myself wearing big orange hard hats. That's down in Dwellingup, I think. That's a big high ropes course. And so yeah, just doing some fun outdoor physical activities. So the next one I called curveball. So that photo is an MRI, and that's my brain. And the big white blobs shouldn't be there. So I was diagnosed with neurofibromatosis type 2.
What?
It's one word. Neurofibromatosis type 2.
Right, yep.
But I'm going to call it NF2. That's what it's known as. It's a bit easier for interpreting. So I was diagnosed with NF2 on my 29th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
I had an MRI for some jaw pain, and I went in to get the results the next day. I thought that was a good sign because it meant that they found something. But I didn't expect the words. The doctor said an MRI is a photograph, and like a photograph, it picks things up in the background. And in the background, we can see you have brain tumours. So what is NF2? So I've got up here, NF2 is when tumours grow along your central nervous system. So anywhere along your nerves, I grow too much protein on the nerves. So they're benign tumours anywhere in the body. The classic calling card of NF2 are bilateral acoustic neuromas, which are what the big white dots are. And what they do, they grow on the auditory nerve on both sides, and they strangle the nerve until you lose your hearing, or you have to have surgery that takes you. So for 4 years, I had regular MRIs. I had chemotherapy a few times. The bottom photo here is me at an ophthalmology appointment. The middle photo is me having chemotherapy, and then the far right is an MRI like before. So surgery is the inevitable. So this is a bit of a photo album of my life. In 2020 was when my world changed. That had nothing to do with COVID. The right side tumour that you saw on the previous slide, the right side one got to a point where they had to cut it out. It's a big surgery. It's 18 hours. It's done down at Charlie Gardner Hospital, and it's between ENT surgeons and neurosurgeons. Big team. And what they do is when they got a gnarly scar there, so they cut out the tumour, and at the same time they put in an auditory brainstem implant.
A what?
An auditory brainstem implant, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So they're called ABI. So they put the ABI in at the same time they take out the tumour. So my right side one was done in February 2020, and I woke up from surgery deaf on the right side. It's a big change from being able to hear on both sides to losing sound on one. And I got used to life as we went on during that year. I had to wait 3 months to turn on the implant, but it didn't work. So no sound on the right side, which is annoying. Then So my left side grew really quickly. They thought I would have maybe 10 years in between, but it was only 1 year.
Oh my.
So they did an MRI late 2020 and saw that the left tumour had just gone growing really quickly. I went and saw the neurosurgeon again, and he said if we leave the tumour in, you lose the ability to walk because it was growing into my brainstem and stopping me from doing different things. So these photos here are a bit of what life was like for me for a few years. They're not nice, they're not flattering, but they're what life was like. So when I had the MRI and the doctor said we need to take it out, I had the surgery 5 weeks later, and it's hard to imagine as a hearing person being told you have 5 weeks left to hear. What do you listen to?
Oh my God.
So, auditory brainstem implants, ABIs. So I have 2 ABIs, one on each side.
Yeah.
So as you can see here, an ABI bypasses all of the ear and goes straight to the brainstem. So when they took the tumours out, they sever the nerve, they cut this bit here. So that means my cochlea and my inner ear, all of that is dead. You can't attach anything to it. So you can't use a hearing aid, you can't use a cochlear implant.
Right.
Only thing is an ABI. And an ABI, that tiny little bit on the brainstem, it's 2 millimetres by 5 millimetres, very, very little. And it's got 12 electrodes. And it sends signals from the receiver, from the processor, straight to the brainstem, and your brain doesn't have the cochlea to make sense of it all and put it into order. It just goes straight onto the brain, and it's a lot of information unprocessed. So that second side, it took quite a few months to turn on. After my second surgery, I had lots of difficulties, so they had to wait 5 months to turn it on. So for 5 months, no sound. During 2021, the state went into lockdown a few times. I was in hospital, deaf, with limited knowledge of Auslan, so really, really hard. But once they turned the second ABI on, all 12 of the electrodes worked. So it was the complete opposite of the right side. Got nothing on this side, but this side it worked really well.
Do you know why the other side didn't work?
No, so why the other side didn't work, sometimes it's just a bad placement. I did have swelling after surgery, and they think maybe it came off by 1 millimetre or so, but that's all it takes for it not to work. That's not fun. And then I still have lots of rehab at Fiona Stanley. So ABI results vary, so like my 2 show. So really you're told you might hear a really loud bang or an alarm, but because I can hear speech, they got very, very, very excited and it made the news. So that was really exciting. So on here there are some screenshots of the ABC article that they ran, and the top one here is me and my ENT surgeon, and he did both my surgeries. And then the bottom one, the same ENT surgeon, and then me, and then my audiologist Daisy at Fiona Stanley. The middle one is just me in a hospital bed, and then the far side is me being interviewed for the news. Yeah. Okay, so eyesight. So after the second surgery, I had facial weakness. It's improved a lot, but it means my left eye can't close fully, which was really hard because it means it dries out. So for 8 months after surgery, I had to tape my eye closed every night, and it's really, really scary once you've lost all your sound to then tape an eye closed. I felt like I was disappearing into myself.
Oh my God.
And then after 8 months, 9 months, they put in a gold weight into my eyelid to help it close. So my left eye can close a little bit more. I have part of NF2, like I said at the start. You have tumours grow on your nerves anywhere. So I have a tumour on my eye that causes double vision, and they can't operate on it. So it just gets bigger slowly. So what they can do, and they did do last year, is they cut the muscle around the eye, and then they move your eye up a bit, and then they tie it, and it just reduces the double vision, which is helpful. It does mean they have to wake you up during surgery, which is a bit scary. And then up on here, so this is how I looked for quite some time. And then on the far right is a photo I took and edited, and it's what life was like when I woke up from surgery. So I couldn't hear, and that's how the world looked. But it's gotten much better since then, so that's good. The other thing is I have serum drops to help my eyesight. So what that is, every 3 months I have a lot of blood taken, and then they spin it at Royal Perth, and they separate out the red blood cell from the plasma serum, and they freeze it into daily doses. And so every day I put my stem cells into my eye, and that really helped improve my vision. At night I have a weighted eye mask to help keep my eye closed, instead of taping it, which is much nicer. Okay, so here is some of the communication methods that I use. I woke up from the second surgery in intensive care with this on my head. It says, "I am deaf, I sign Auslan." And I don't know why they put it on there, because no one else in hospital signs Auslan, but they thought it might be nice to put on. So I would see nurses come in, and I said to my husband, "How do they know? Got a big sign on your head." So what they really did a lot, on the top left here is a whiteboard, and so all the nurses, all the doctors would come in, write down, you know, are you in pain, are you hungry, those type of things. So that's how they work.
Yeah.
The centre is my Otter app, and I know lots of you use Otter, so it's a voice to text app, and it does need Wi-Fi, so luckily the hospital had Wi-Fi, because that centre one is an actual transcript from when I was in, I think it was the second lockdown the state had. So they came in and said, "You need emergency surgery on your spine." And that's how I learnt about it. So I had to go through all my consent on Otter. I couldn't have my husband, I couldn't have anyone there because of COVID. And then the bottom left here, Cardzilla. I know some of you might use that. That is a really helpful app that you, instead of using the notes app in your phone, if you use Cardzilla, which is free, it adjusts the size of the text so it doesn't disappear off the page, which is really useful. So I use it for ordering a coffee, or if I'm turning up to an appointment. Okay, so yeah. So this photo I took when I was celebrating being accepted into the NDIS. It's a photo of 2 toilet doors. The left one says ladies, the right one says disabled. And I just thought it was very interesting. All of a sudden you've got the light versus dark, and a noun and a verb, and I just thought this is going to be a new identity growing. This is another photo I took of when I was walking the dog, and I think it really captures what it's like to acquire a disability. So on the other side of the fence, I can see people going around their day. They're doing the same things I'm doing, but there's now a barrier between us. And I didn't think that I would be on this side of the barrier. Okay. Another photo. I last year, I think the Van Gogh exhibit came to Perth, and this was a bit of writing that Van Gogh wrote. It says, "Often whole days pass without my speaking to anyone." And I really felt connected to that. So when I became deafblind, when I acquired a disability, it was a time of immense grief. It's grief for a future that's now gone, and the unknown of what the new future will be. So I couldn't teach, I still can't really. I work at a school, but it's not what it was. I know what it's like to teach a class. What I do now isn't that. I went before the second surgery. I'm a proactive person. I went to the Department of Education Central Office, and I'd been teaching for them for 12 years. I'm a permanent employee, and I said, I'm going to be deaf. What can I do? What can I do after that, after the surgery? And they looked at me and said, we don't think we'll be able to find you a role, so you will have to take medical retirement and take the Centrelink pension. And I thought, I get that. So the second point here, when you lose your hearing and you've heard your whole life, the things when you're feeling anxious often I found were listening to music or listening to a mindfulness app, going to a yoga class, those type of grounding experiences. When I lost my hearing, I lost my whole toolkit. Couldn't do any of those things. And I tried seeing a psychologist with Otter, but the Wi-Fi would cut out, or it wouldn't catch exactly what she'd said, and it just got more and more frustrating, and you feel even more isolated.
Yeah.
So I found it hard to share my deafblindness because it's acquired. I haven't grown up in the community. I don't have a congenital deafblindness. I'm not capital D deaf, so I don't fit in that community. So I just sort of felt quite alone after all of this. I don't use my cane all the time because I get worried I'm going to be questioned. Because I sound like a hearing person, people often don't believe that I am deaf. So I have named my cane Michael the Cane. I just like it because it adds humour and it gives my family it just makes it fun when they say, are you bringing Michael? Or, where's Michael? Do we need to put him over here? And so that's helped me use him more. I go to regular physiotherapy and exercise, but at the gym, because as people know, you're deafblind, exercising outdoors, there's so many dangers. I can't hear traffic unless my microphone is pointing in that direction. The eyesight, you get blinded, especially with Perth sun. When they did the surgery, when they sever those nerves, it's your vestibular cochlear nerve.
Oh.
So you lose your balance.
Yeah.
So I have to rely on my eyesight for balance now. So when the light gets really bright and I can't see, I'll stagger around, or the light gets really low and I can't see, I stagger around. Kind of feels like being on a ship in really big sea. And I'm continuing to learn Auslan, but it takes a long time to learn a new language. So I do regular classes, and that's my big goal, is to become fluent. This is a photo of lip reading, of lips, and then lots of words. So I rely on lip reading to understand speech. Without it, I'm lost. So I became deaf during COVID. So we all know masks, and everyone stepped back at the time that I lost access to sound. So I really realised that lips are very important. And without it, I'm lost. So the phone, can't answer the phone, those type of things. These are some tools that I use every day. So on the right there, that's me and Michael on the tube in London. So I went there this year, and it was great fun, and that really helped having him. People gave me some space. The top left are these little badges. I'm actually wearing one today. I got them on Etsy. This one says, I lip read. Others say I'm deaf. I've got another that says I'm deafblind. And then I've got a funny one that says, wait, what? And I wear that sometimes. The top one up here is the Apple Watch. I really like my Apple Watch. It helps. It makes me feel safe, connected. The Roger system, so I use my Roger on all the time. So if there are any questions after this, I'll be passing that around so that I can hear. It connects directly to my brainstem. And then the Bellman and Symphon alarm clock and smoke alarm. I use that at home. Okay, so onwards. This is another photo of Michael and I in London on the dark South Bank. But it was lots of fun. So this year I had long service leave, and I travelled overseas for the first time since all the surgeries, and I did it by myself. So I was really, really proud to do that. I've been getting involved in advocacy work. So one thing I'm doing at the moment is the Fremantle Prison Advocacy and Inclusion Fund, and that's just coming out, which is great. The Census WA, getting involved with them. And then for fun, last year I entered the SBS Emerging Writers Competition, and I wrote just a short 2,000 word entry about how I had to give up my hearing, and that got published, so that was exciting. A few other things, so that was our senses when I got back to the footy, so got to go and watch Freo lose in person again instead of just on the TV. And so that was really great, getting to go out there and feel part of the community. And then the Children's Tumour Foundation, that's the NF2 charity in Australia. So I'm involved with those guys as well. Medel made my brainstem implants, so they are the reason I could hear, so I like them. This top picture here is me and 3 engineers who made my implant, the exact one that I have in my brain. So they match your serial number with who made the implant, and we got to meet. So this year I went to Austria, to Innsbruck, which is where their headquarters are, and I got to meet the 3 of them, and it was really emotional because they knew that exactly how I could hear, and I knew that it was because of them that I could. So because of that, so I'm an ABI mentor, so people around the world can connect to ask questions, not medical questions, I'm not a doctor, but just what it's like to have one, what to expect, any tips. So they featured me for International Women's Day this year, which is really lovely. And here, this is a bit of a busy slide, so I'm just going to go through it. I'm really interested in accessibility, especially coming from the able body into disability as lived experience now. So the top 3 photos I took in London at the Imperial War Museum, and I just loved how accessible they made the exhibits. So they had BSL interpreting and captions, which is so important. I'm learning Auslan, I don't know BSL, but to have captions as well, it's covering everything. Over here it had audio, visual, captions, interpreting all in one. And then on the far right, they had large print guides for all the audio the whole time. So, really. Bottom is in, these 2 photos here are in Birmingham. And they've got really bright, big, high contrast announcements on the trains. Not just one on the other side of the carriage, but all the way down the carriage, large print, so you can see what the next stop is. The big orange stripe, that is the handrails of the train stations. It's got large print showing you where the platform is, and it's got braille. Oh my God, that was so good to know exactly every time you go to the stairs, it was always at the bottom or at the top, so you knew, I'm going on the right stairs to get to that platform. And then the far one, I'm wearing glasses. I've gone to the theatre in London here, and I'm wearing their smart caption glasses. It's a bit tricky when you're deafblind. You have to take your own glasses off to put them on. But the captions would come up in the glass down, so when you look through, you could see the words that the actors were saying. So that was really nice. It's just very heavy. It's got the batteries on the arms, and so you get a big dent on your nose. But it was still fun to get to the theatre. Wow. Okay, almost off the conference. Okay, and this is the last bit about me. So that's a photo when I was in Innsbruck. They did a little interview with me for the mentor program. So I'm pivoting out of teaching and more into advocacy work. I'm the new chairperson for DVWA, which is really exciting. A member of the NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission Consultative Committee. So that's just started. We've got the Royal Commission report coming out this week. So we're looking at that, really important. And I'm using my skills as an educator to raise awareness of deaf blindness and disability. Also to help people who acquire a disability, because it can be very isolating if you've grown up in another world and suddenly you're in a new one. It's very different, can be very isolating. Okay, so this is the conference.
Can we take it to 5? Hannah, can you take it to 5 minute break?
Yes, please.